Hey everyone, this is Pat. Welcome to Box Office Addict. This is my live stream podcast, what have you, show that we do every Sunday, covering the weekend box office numbers. We look at the marketing costs, the fees to distribute the films, how much the studio gets back from the ticket sales. It's different with there's averages, but some films, for instance, the recent Star Wars film's going to be getting 65% of ticket sales from the theaters. But they say that the theaters will be getting back a lot of revenue from people buying popcorn and soda and all that. But anyway, we look at marketing costs, we look at the budget, we look at what the expectations were, what actually happened. We try to figure out why a movie had an opening weekend like this. And it also gives you a good look at the market and what's going to happen with movies in the future. The kind of movies that they're going to keep making because they make money. And when you ever complain about, like, you always hear people say, why don't they make more movies like this? Well, this will give you a better understanding of why they don't make movies like that sometimes, because they probably don't make money. And as someone who loves a lot of movies that don't make money, I feel your pain. But if you're a box office addict like myself, you come here to listen to the weekend numbers, and everyone seems to really enjoy it. Alright, guys, the moderator of the chat now is this how you say, is it Bathory? Isn't that a metal band? Isn't there a metal band called Bathories or I'm not sure. But anyway, she is the moderator of the chat that I have decided. I'm sorry if that makes any of you jealous. She's really helped me out with some specific things since I started Box Office Addict, and that's just been she actually knows quite a bit about stuff. She does research every so often, and I'm a fan of her and the comments that she leaves in the chat. So I am going to leave her responsible with moderating the chat and making sure nobody's being too much of an a-hole. Hey, man. Hey, buddy. Awesome. All right, so yeah, let's kick off this weekend's Box Office Addict. This is going to be awesome. You know, I'm really excited about this weekend for a few reasons. One is, I think this is going to be my new format. Instead of talking about all of the movies like I usually do, I talk about like 20, 30 films, which not everyone does. Everyone focuses on the top 5 or so. Yeah, oh, okay, I didn't know if it was that or you did it after the band. Okay. No, yeah, I know that, but I was wondering, because there's a metal band that's really famous, I think, with that name, that all my friends were into, and I was like, oh, are you like into the band? Because I think that's Razor Fist's favorite band. By the way, Razor Fist blocked me on Twitter this week. That was upsetting. Before we go into this, like, I really love Razor Fist too. Like, I'm a big fan of his work. But I was just retweeting some of his stuff and making jokes on Twitter, and I guess it upset him, and he blocked me. I'm pro blocking, so don't think I'm like saying like, hey, Razor, look at Razor Fist block. Like, I block people. I think it's okay to block people. If someone's annoying you and you don't like what they're saying, you have every right to block them. I think that's fine. We need to kill the stigma about blocking, that you're a poon or that you're not tough or something if you block someone. I don't agree with that. But anyway, I got blocked because he made some comments about how he predicted the current reception to Blade Runner 2049, and I kind of made fun of that and how he tries to be Nostradamus and his whole foresight thing, and I got blocked within like a couple of minutes of this. But hopefully he'll come around and unblock me someday and I can read his tweets again, because I do like Razorfist's Twitter. That's the most upsetting thing about this, is that I really liked his Twitter and I liked reading his tweets. So that kind of sucks. That's the worst part about getting blocked, is if you like the person's stuff, you want to see what they have to say. Like, if I just couldn't comment on stuff, that would be cool. I wouldn't have an issue with that. But it sucks when you can't see you can't see their opinion anymore. That's the part that sucks. So anyway, I'm going to jump in. I haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, so I can't answer that question. I am going this week. But when I see the movie, I'll answer that. I don't know how it's going to play for me, so I can't really give an opinion. It got great reviews. So before we get, but like I said, the new format is more, I'm going to focus on lesser films. I'm not going to talk about, like, I don't think I need to talk about Despicable Me 3 again for, like, the 10th week and say the same thing. There's really nothing to add to it. Like, I'm just not going to talk, when I think the topic's dead, I'm just going to move on. Like, there's nothing to say about Despicable Me 3 or or some of these films, you know, like Wind River. I don't have anything to say about that movie anymore. So in the previous weeks, I always try to kind of go back to films that I've talked about throughout the beginning and see how they're doing and go back to that. But I'm just going to leave them and stay focused on things I haven't talked too much about. Like It. I don't know what to say about It anymore. Like, oh wow, it made a bunch of money. You know, we already looked at the marketing. I used the Mad Men clip to explain nostalgia. There's just so much we already talked about. I don't know what else to say. It made a lot of money. Like, just talking about it again, is it gonna do anything? So I think that's the thing I'm just gonna focus on. I'm gonna move on from the films that are kind of dead topics to me, and focus the content a little bit more. So that's where I'm going with this. So when I go see Thor, I will have a review out for that. Don't worry. I am a fan of the director. I believe his name is. You say it as I might be saying it wrong. He's from New Zealand. Taika Waititi. If I got that wrong, someone in the chat let me know, because I'm really awful at pronouncing names. I get names wrong so much. It gets really annoying because everyone thinks I'm like super, super dumb when I do that, but it's just like I'm so bad with that. But I think it's Taika Waititi. But he directed What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, which are two movies I like a lot. And he also worked on Flight of the Conchords and was a director on several episodes of that show. And he has a very unique sense of humor that comes from that part of the world that I find I really connect with. And I think he's got some Edgar Wright sensibilities. In particular, I thought What We Do in the Shadows was very much like a Shaun of the Dead, but for like a documentary, a mockumentary. Very good acting. He seems like a very talented director, writer, and I'm glad that he has the success. It's really crazy how long the superhero movie genre has been so strong for many years now. It truly is the Western. Some people seem to think Westerns were only popular for like 10 years and then died off, but that's not true. Westerns were popular for a long time before they died off. Westerns just in, I say it like Waititi. Yeah, I'm never sure. Yeah, I think it's Waititi or Waititi. I'm not sure specifically how you're supposed to say it. I think it's Waititi. But you know, if I got it wrong, I'm sorry. I apologize to him if he watches this. What We Do in the Shadows was fantastic. Yes, definitely. Swearwolves, one of my favorite things ever. And Hunt for the Wilder People is a very good follow-up. And he directed some films before that. I can't remember. I think he made a film called Boy. But this, I'm gonna get more conversation and focusing less on so many movies, so I can talk about 5-6 movies, get that stuff out of the way, and then keep it really better paced. Because a lot of the time, I think I either talk too much about the movies and I ignore the chat, or I focus too much on the chat like last week and I ignore the movies. So you got to find that balance. We are 9 minutes into it. All right. Yeah, I was giving some time for people to get here. I'm not like just talking to talk. I'm not just being loquacious here. I actually want to. I'm waiting for some people to come join us in the live stream. Not everyone always knows. I don't really give people hints at Twitter or have it set up on YouTube so people know a live stream's coming. So a lot of people are like, "When are you doing Box Office Addict?" So okay, let's kick in here. I think I'm ready to start. Okay. Let's find a movie that I really want to talk about a little bit. I guess we'll talk about the Lego Ninjago movie. Or is it Ninjago? I can't remember. I think it's Ninjago. That's a 57 million domestic, 20 million opening weekend it had, and 116 million worldwide. Now, this film cost 70 million from what I read, and that's not including the marketing costs. And, the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie both did really well. This is doing, I'd say mediocre, but I'm going to lean more towards bad, because not even 60 mil domestic's bad, in my opinion. The word of mouth isn't there. The marketing wasn't very good. I don't think they needed to make this movie. I think it hurt the Lego brand a little bit to release 2 Lego movies in the same year, and one of them like this, underperforming. They're oversaturating it. They're not Marvel. You can't just make 100 Lego movies and they're all going to do well. You have to be very selective with what Lego movie you're going to make, and this just isn't this wasn't a good decision. Ninjas really aren't popular. Yeah, no one spoil anything about Thor Ragnarok, although I'm pretty sure it's not one of those movies where spoilers matter. Don't go crazy here, but from what I've read about the movie, it's pretty much like 2 hours of adventures and comedy and stuff. I doubt there's a lot of plot that's like, oh, don't spoil that plot point. I don't think it's that kind of movie. But people in the chat, if you have seen it and you want to talk about it, just try to be a little bit. Yeah, you should watch all Flight of the Conchords. There's not that many episodes. That show only had like 2 seasons. And then they haven't really done anything. The one guy, he won an Oscar. He went on to do the Muppet. He did the songs for the Muppet movie. But anyway, yeah, the Lego Ninjago movie, not a good idea, I don't think. I thought it might do a little bit better, but I still never thought it was going to be a big hit. And it kind of proves that whole Lego brand thing isn't a guaranteed thing. You have to have a good premise. There really wasn't a hook in the trailers with this movie. Kingsman, The Golden Circle. This is one I've talked just too much about, but it's not done with its run yet, so we have to bring it up. And really, everything I said about it, this was one of the only things I was right about this year. I made so many predictions this year about the box office, and I was just horribly, horribly wrong. It didn't pan out. This was one I was totally right on. Before this movie came out for weeks, I was on Twitter talking about the marketing campaign, how the film didn't really have a new hook or appeal from the previous film. It didn't look as good as the first film in the trailers, I thought, and I got this bad vibes that it was going to be a film that didn't perform as well and it was going to get mixed reviews, and it did get mixed reviews. And you can go look at my Twitter. I was talking about this stuff. And I'm not happy to be right about this. That's what sucks. I love Matthew Vaughn, and I really liked the first Kingsman. I would have loved had this been a great sequel and opened to like 50, 60 million, been a huge hit, and been a film we all love and gone, oh, well, I'm great that film came out, and I'm happy Matthew Vaughn got to make a sequel, and it was amazing, because he's never made one. Unfortunately, it's the worst reviewed film of his career, but it is one of the highest performing. Even though it's only at 98 mil domestic, which is, I'm going to say mediocre, the budget being 104 million, and the fact that it's a sequel to a film that made 130 million domestic a couple years ago. And this film, the fact it had about the same opening weekend, it didn't hold as well. The word of mouth wasn't there at all. It's scratching, very slow to get to 100 million. I thought it would be here already. It's past the international foreign box office of the previous film at 286 million. This one's made 291. So the first film made 414 million worldwide. This one's at 389 million. Taron Egerton, he hasn't really had a huge career since the first one, but I still think he's got a lot of room to become a star. A lot less of Colin Firth in the marketing, I think, kind of hurt it, and Samuel Jackson's presence as the villain is kind of lacking with Julianne Moore. They just have Channing Tatum in there swearing, and like, you like Channing Tatum. But it's not a bomb, obviously. It cost $104 million. They spent some money on marketing, a poor marketing campaign. Whoever did the trailers, cut the trailers, and it just didn't work. They needed to come up with a hook, and they really didn't have one. This needed a bigger opening weekend, really, to push it over. But the numbers, the worldwide numbers speak for themselves. You know, it's going to make 400 million worldwide, and that's successful when its budget's considered. But the weeks have gone by, and Kingsman has not picked up momentum. It won't be in theaters much longer. 53% drop, 750,000 this weekend. I don't see it having that much longer of a run in cinemas, unfortunately. Do you think Scarlett Johansson was miscast in Ghost in the Shell? I don't think she was maybe miscast. I'm not sure. You know, I'm not really sure. It depends. I think that whole movie was a bad idea in a lot of ways. I think a lot of what works about Ghost in the Shell is the animation and how it gets away with things because of that. And in live action, I just don't think they work as well. You would have needed a really dense, detailed screenplay, which that movie didn't have. And someone like a David Fincher or a Spike Jonze who could have really fleshed that world out or something like that. You didn't have that. You have a talented visual filmmaker and a mediocre screenplay, pretty much, and some decent special effects. I don't know if Scarlett Johansson's the one to blame, really. I think a better filmmaker probably could have done something with her in that project. Okay, let's move on up. American-made, upsetting, Tom Cruise, man. 50 million budget, 49 million domestic, almost done with its run in cinemas. Did not hold well. $82 million at the foreign box office, 131 million worldwide. It's doing okay. I was thinking it was going to do better, like over 200 million, but this is going to be one of Cruise's lowest performing films. It can't cruise by on Tom. Doug Liman, very talented filmmaker, made this an Edge of Tomorrow. Can't really seem to break out with these Tom Cruise movies. I mean, even the Mummy and Jack Reacher and all that, Oblivion did much better than this, and this is one of Cruise's best movies in a long time. So they put quite a bit of money into this. I've heard there was even more money into this film, and they're not really getting it back. I doubt they're going to make much profit off this film, if any at all, because I'm sure it's split up between a lot of people, and I'm sure Tom Cruise got a big paycheck. I'm sure Doug Liman got a big paycheck. It's upsetting. I wish it would have been a hit. You can blame the marketing campaign, but I really just don't think Cruise has too much appeal, and I don't know. I think people have seen movies like this before, and it probably felt too familiar to everyone who was looking at the marketing, and that didn't get enough people to go. Kind of like that Bryan Cranston movie that came out. I can't remember what it was called, where he goes undercover or something, but it looked like a lot of movies you had seen before. LBJ came out this weekend in a limited release. It's Woody Harrelson, directed by Rob Reiner, made $1.1 million at 659 theaters. That's not very good. For as wide as that release is. So that's upsetting. Let's go on to Suburbicon. I haven't talked enough about this. George Clooney's Bomb. 59% drop this weekend, $5 million domestic. Now, this isn't the first bomb that George Clooney's directed. If you go and look, The Monuments Men, which was a bomb, confirmed by the Sony emails and that whole thing with Clooney on the phone saying he screwed it up. That was a film that cost $70 million, and they put a lot of money into marketing, and it really didn't perform that well domestically. And it was considered kind of a mediocre to average film. Leatherheads, they put a lot of money into, got pretty bad reviews, bombed at the box office. I saw that film in the theater, and I remember very specifically walking out of Leatherheads, which was a movie that, by the way, I do like the cinematography. I walked out of it, and I was a fan of John Krasinski at the time, and I was hoping this was going to be a breakout role. I saw it with, I may have saw it with my dad, or a friend or something. That movie came out in 2008. I don't remember who I saw it with, but someone said, well, that was some kind of movie or something. They described what kind of genre it was, like romantic comedy. And I said, I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah, Leatherheads is terrible. It's one of the most boring, indulgent films I've seen. So he has that, and then he also directed, oh wait, that was Soderbergh. I had it mixed up with that film Soderbergh directed. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which is a film I like quite a bit, did not do that well. It cost $30 million and made $33 million worldwide. Did not make much profit. Written by the great Charlie Kaufman and starring the great Sam Rockwell. And yeah, Ides of March did well. That's because it had a low budget. I think this thing cost like $15 million and it made $75 million worldwide, and it got pretty good reviews. So this was one of Clooney's more successful projects as a director, actor, and all that, and writer. This actually got pretty good reception. It was when Ryan was having a good year. The 2011 year of Ryan was a big year, and then his career just went to total crap in 2012, 2013, till La La Land. He made so many bad decisions. La La Land was the first good decision Ryan Gosling made in a long time. That's the main thing. Like, he made so many, because I was such a fan of Blue Valentine and Drive, and Crazy Stupid Love did well, and he was coming off Lars and the Real Girl and all the thing. But then, man, after that, doing Gangster Squad and The Place Beyond the Pines, which I really like The Place Beyond the Pines, but Only God Forgives. The Big Short was a good decision, and then Nice Guys was a decent decision, but it didn't do that well. But great performance. But really, La La Land was the one where he could get some box office power. I know Gosling doesn't pick his roles based off, like, money, but it just, I don't know, like, why was he in Gangster Squad? Why the hell did he sign up for that movie? That didn't help anyone. A lot of great actors. Really, really bad a version of The Untouchables, which is basically all it was. But Suburbicon, man, Coen Brothers script from the 80s that never got made, and it makes me think there's a reason they never made it, because it probably wasn't that good. Clooney directed. Really liked the trailer, though. I loved Oscar Isaac in the trailer. I thought it looked like a lot of fun, but I did see how it could be a total disaster. It's getting pretty bad reviews. The opening week was bad. I don't know why they didn't release this in limited release. I don't know why you would go wide to 2,000 theaters so quickly, and in its second week, and it's already, like, pretty much dead. But yeah, Matt Damon, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Julianne Moore. What a cast. This is one of those Matt Damon bombs he has every once in a while. Like, Matt Damon's he's not a dud at the box office, but then he gets like a Promised Land or a Hereafter, The Green Zone. Occasionally Matt Damon will be in a movie that just doesn't do that well. It seems like people prefer him in blockbuster type roles as an everyman than they do in these kind of quirky comedic roles, which I think he's better at. I really like him in roles like this. But yeah, this isn't doing well at all. It's another bomb for Clooney. Not, but Clooney, he has so much success as an actor, but this is a bomb for him again as a director, not a very successful filmmaker. One of his worst reviewed films. So, I'm not just trying to crap on Clooney. I don't hate Clooney or anything. I mean, he's the most smug guy in the world, but, this is just, you have to comment on it. This is not good for his career or anyone's career. It's going to be another, like, all right, Clooney, every time you direct a movie lately, they're not doing that well. Should we be giving you money to make movies anymore? You need to kind of... I think he's a poor storyteller. He was so terrific with Good Night and Good Luck, but I don't always give him credit for that. I mean, I give him credit for that movie. His presentation was brilliant, but that was originally going to be a TV film and had a low budget, and they had so much good material to work off of. The original material was the story itself of Edward Murrow, and that itself is so compelling that you get a great actor that was great his whole career. I mean, I loved him on The Sopranos, but then you give him that role, and of course it's genius. Don't get me wrong, the presentation, I love that movie, and Robert Downey Jr. and everyone in it, but, that was his one really great film, where it seemed like he was a good director, and I do like Confessions, but ever since then, I think his movies have all kind of been like, and it's always been the storytelling. I like how his movies look. He just seems to have trouble with tone. He keeps trying to be Steven Soderbergh and the Coens, and I think his stuff is better when he kind of finds his own voice and just lets his movies exist, and he focuses on being a storyteller, not trying to be some visual auteur, because his influences overwhelm the actual project that he's working on. Victoria and Abdul, or he's too in love with this cast. He seems to love his actors too much. That's an issue. 56 million worldwide, doing pretty well, all things considered. Stephen Frears film, starring Dame Judi Dench and Eddie Izzard. Stephen Frears, very good director, made Florence Foster Jenkins. Let's go back. The Grifters, a terrific movie I highly recommend. Great neo-noir from the 90s with my boy Cusack. Directed High Fidelity, one of the best movies ever, as far as I'm concerned. Dirty Pretty Things, The Queen. Had a lot of success. Some of his films have done very well worldwide. And he's been a very acclaimed filmmaker. Yeah, look, 100 million, 123 million. He's actually one of those British directors who's had a lot of success making films that aren't American necessarily. When he makes American films, they don't seem to do as well. But the film's doing pretty well, I think, and it's holding well. 26% drop this weekend. Okay, The Foreigner, starring Jackie Chan. 120 million worldwide, 31 mil domestic, $35 million budget. Some marketing costs. It's been staying at that 88 million that it was already at. So I'm thinking this is pretty much where it's going to end up. But this isn't a bomb. It just didn't do that well domestically. Poor Jackie Chan. Poor old Jackie Chan. Let There Be Light, 1.6 million, $4 million domestic. I don't know what the hell that movie is, so I'm just going to move on. Only the Brave, the fireman movie. Really good reviews. Joseph Krasinski, Joseph Kosinski, the guy directed Tron Legacy and Oblivion. Two films that underperformed at the box office, and this was reported on. Tron Legacy very much upset Disney financially. They made some money, but not what they were expecting. They put a lot of money into that movie, and same with Oblivion. A lot of money in that movie didn't really pay off. Guy was an architect and became a filmmaker, but this film has 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, has Josh Brolin, Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly, Jeff Bridges, Taylor Kitsch, James Badgedale, who's a very underrated actor from that show Rubicon. And he's really great in that movie Flight, the Robert Zemeckis film. He has one scene in that movie and he steals the movie. It's one of the better written scenes. I like that movie for the most part. I think it's a little long, but 16 million worldwide, not doing that well. I want to see this movie. I think it's probably a really enjoyable, cliche, good old time at the movies, but it's not doing that well. Blade Runner 2049, 45% drop, 2.2 million this weekend, $150 million budget. I've heard 155 to 170, huge marketing budget. Sony split the cost with Warner Brothers. I'm not sure how many people invested in this. They've claimed they didn't lose any money on this movie, is what I've read from some sources, but they're not making any money. 85 mil domestic, will not make 100 million, unfortunately. Blade Runner 2049, I think, is a very good movie, despite some people hating it and some people thinking the critical reception of it's all of a sudden bad, even though it still has an 8.5 on IMDb and 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. But sure, let's go with the reception's bad now, because you read some Reddit posts or something. But 239 million worldwide, not doing well. Total, I'm just gonna call it a bomb. I mean, even if they didn't lose money, it's a bomb when you just look at it. You're like, okay, you know, nobody's going to see it is the main thing. There's not a very big audience. I'd say the majority of this money is simply coming from the star power of Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford, and possibly Jared Leto, and just that's about it. And Blade Runner fans. I think that's pretty much it. That's all going to see it. Unfortunately, Thank You for Your Service, another Miles Teller film. $7 million domestic, $20 million budget. Not doing that good. Not even really worth commenting on. Just another one of those films they make that they release, 2,000 theaters that doesn't do that well. Too many movies released right now. Like, you didn't need to release Thank You for Your Service, Only the Brave, Let There Be Light, Suburbicon, all around the same time. There's just no way all of those movies are going to make money. There's no way. In this time of the year, all of them being such different films, it just isn't going to work. They need to be so much more selective and clever with these release dates, and what kind of movies you're releasing during that time of the year. Because look what's dominating the box office with all these films out here: comedies, indie films, horror films. Right? What's dominating? A blockbuster, a superhero film. That's what's killing. Like always, that's what's always going to kill. Like, everything else, it just falls into the background once a new superhero film comes out. Like, come on, people. Figure this out. You know, there's just not enough room in the year anymore for all the movies that come out. They're going to have to make less movies, is my thinking. They're just making too many, because you're just throwing out things that aren't going to make money. You're making all these $20, $30 million films that aren't making any money. You just can't keep releasing films all year that don't make any profits. I know it's just a bunch of write-offs, and they're not losing that much, but it just gets annoying. I hate seeing all these films do bad. I think audiences want to go see movies somewhat, but it's like, who's going to go see Suburbicon? I mean, come on. Just cry. Like, think about the movies you produced too. Why did you even make this movie? Really, if the Coen brothers aren't doing it, why make it? They're the ones that make people go see their movie because we like their names, so we know the Coen brothers are making it. George Clooney's not one of those guys where it's like, oh, Clooney's directing it, I gotta go see that movie. No one says that. Happy Death Day, $2 million, $52 million domestic, $78 million worldwide on a $4.8 million budget. I think it's doing pretty well, all things considered. I don't know if it'll make $100 million worldwide, but the budget's low, and I don't think they spent too much money on it. So, the director here, Christopher Landon, did Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse and Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, which made $90 million worldwide on about the same budget. So, he's probably going to work another day, and this film didn't get terrible reviews. Although I've heard it's not as bad as you think, but it's still bad, which I think is a great way to sum it up. Geostorm, that film they spent $120 million on trying to save it by getting international box office. $28 million domestic, $13 million opening weekend, $182 million worldwide. Gerard Butler once again has a bomb on his hands. You know, outside of this Has Fallen franchise and 300, because I'm not going to count How to Train Your Dragon because that's just voice acting, and I think we give too much credit to actors. Like, it's like, oh yeah, How to Train Your Dragon made all that money because of Gerard Butler doing voice acting. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was. But yeah, 300 and a couple romantic comedies. I've always pulled for Gerard Butler. I really like him, but this bad career move. Why would you even make a movie called Geostorm? That name's even bad. Everything about this is a bad idea. I think maybe because that Rock movie did so well, Los Angeles, I think, that one with the earthquake was such a big hit, they probably thought the genre of the disaster movie was coming back. But the problem is I don't think they understand that that did well because The Rock was becoming a mega movie star, and that was his time to shine, and that was the first big movie he was doing, like, solo that year. I think he did Hercules, too, but, like, yeah, everyone wanted to go see that. I mean, I didn't want to go see it, but, hey, yo, Sean, but it's The Rock, man. Like, he's a way bigger movie star than Gerard Butler. You put The Rock in the movie, people are going to go see it. For the most part. Some of his movies haven't done that well. But at this point, if it's a big budget movie and he's doing his Rock blockbuster thing, I think it's a guaranteed good thing. That's absolutely true. There are too many flicks coming out. Duncan Jones, Moon, and Source Code. I don't know, because he did do a Warcraft, and that was pretty bad. I'm wondering if Duncan Jones is best when he stays on the low-budget end of things, and he doesn't have a lot of money in special effects. I think he was kind of overwhelmed by special effects and doing that stuff. I really like Duncan Jones, the son of David Bowie, but I I don't think... I'm not quite sure about that. I think Let There Be Light is a documentary. Oh. Yeah, he does have a great track record. You're totally right about Stephen Frears. He's one of the more consistent directors people don't talk about, actually. He hasn't made, like, many... I don't think he's made any bad movies from what I can think. They're all pretty good movies. I don't think I've seen all of them, but they're pretty good. Oh, yeah, that's my problem with Clooney. You're right, Monuments Men and all that. It's all tone issues. There's tonal issues throughout his work after Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. But he did have a script from Charlie Kaufman. That kind of does help when Charlie Kaufman writes a script for you. But I like that movie, too. And I think Sam Rockwell deserved an Oscar nomination for that movie. I'm not saying he should have won, but he was great in that movie. Yeah, Cruise was excellent, but the box office supports that people go to the theater for the film and not the actress anymore. Cranston's movie is The Infiltrator. Yes, that you're totally right. You're absolutely right. That's what it is. That's the problem is people today, and I think that was always the case for some reason. I think people went to go see Star Wars because of the trailer and the Jaws. I think people went to go see because of the... I think people always went to go see movies because of the marketing and all that. But, yeah, I think there was a period of the movie star, and that era probably is dead. I don't think you can sell a movie on a movie star anymore. Movies will do better because you have actors in them like Robert Downey Jr., but when he's not playing Iron Man or Sherlock Holmes, which is a famous character now, the characters are famous, it's maybe not people love Robert Downey Jr., they love him in these roles, and that's the difference. Which, not saying he isn't a mega movie star, but I think Johnny Depp's kind of proved that it's not true. Because, yeah, if he's not doing the Johnny Depp thing in the right way, the movies don't do that well, and then people get tired of it. Where it used to be, if Johnny Depp was just in a movie, it did well. Yeah, no, I saw Eddie the Eagle. I liked that movie. It just didn't do that well. It wasn't a big hit or anything. They spent like 15 mil on it, and it didn't do that great. But I do like it. I'm not a hater. Yes, the new Kingsman was disappointing. Alright, I was just sorry I was going through all this. You could sell movies by actors in China. That's true. I take that back. China's like going back to the 80s and 90s or something. It really is. When you look at the Chinese cinema and what's going on with releases over there, it's like, oh wow, we're going back to the days of Roland Emmerich dominating the box office. I kind of enjoy it. It's fun. Like you never know what's going to do well in China. You have a prediction one movie's going to be big, and that's not always the biggest film in China. I mean, a lot of films do well there, obviously, but who knew Warcraft was going to make so much in China? I think that stuff's a lot of fun. It keeps things fresh. Seems to me when you look at their filmography, there never really was the era of the bankable star any more than there is today with Rock and Cruise. I don't know if that's really true. Because if you look at Tom Cruise's career, I think there was definitely an era of his career where he was a big movie star and his movies made money because he was Tom Cruise. If you go back and look here, let's go back to... I mean, I'm not saying that that's not true now, but let's go back... Because I know my Tom Cruise. Let's go back to this era of Tom Cruise. Top Gun, $179 million in 1986. Color of Money, $52 million. Cocktail, $78 million. Rain Man, $172 million. Born on the 4th of July, $70 million. Days of Thunder, $82 million. Those are all huge hits, by the way. Far and Away was a film that didn't do that great domestically. A Few Good Men, $141 million. The Firm, $158 million. Interview with the Vampire, $105 million. Mission Impossible, $180 million. Jerry Maguire, $153 million. And then Eyes Wide Shut and Magnolia. Eyes Wide Shut actually did well worldwide. And then, for me, what really confirms Cruise's star power is Mission Impossible 2 being such a big hit, despite being a totally terrible movie, and Vanilla Sky. Then you have Minority Report. Then The Last Samurai made $100 million. Collateral made $100 million. The War of the Worlds was a huge hit. And then he had his drop-off during the 06 era where he came out really crazy Scientologist. So I would argue that at this point from the late 80s to about the mid-90s to late 90s, maybe even early 2000s, Tom Cruise did get people to go to movies because he was in them. I'm not saying all of them. I think Interview with the Vampire was going to do well no matter who was in it. And Mission Impossible probably would have done well with a lot of different people. But like something like Jerry Maguire or The Firm or I think all of these. A Few Good Men was hyped up because it was a famous Broadway play. Born on the 4th of July, I think very much benefited from him. The money Rain Man made, I don't know. I think movies like, I think he was probably at his peak around like 1986 to 1995. I would say Tom Cruise was like guaranteed box office. But that's just yeah, the budgets were high, but Interview with the Vampire's budget was what, 60 million, and it made 223 million worldwide. That one's a good one to bring up, but not all of them are that way. Some of his films, I agree with that one. Interview with the Vampire, they spent way too much money on at the time, I always thought. I thought they way overspent on that movie. And it actually, it's a weird thing about that movie, it dropped really bad at the box office. If you go look, its opening weekend was 36 million, which was terrific in 1994. And then it went down to 17 million in its second weekend. Now, the third weekend it held pretty well. But, no, I think The Firm, what was The Firm's budget? The Firm's budget's like 50-something million, and it made 270 worldwide. That's great. Rain Man cost 25 million and made 354 million worldwide. That's huge box office. And Tom Cruise was always an international star. We are talking about the era of bankable stars, or Tom Cruise' prestigious run in the late 80s and 90s. I thought that we were talking about if that time existed, and I think maybe it still did in the 90s. I still think that actors could sell movies in the 90s. Like, I think Tom Hanks was a big star in the 90s. I think that was the last decade it was kind of a thing. I think it's been off and on throughout the years depending on what was popular, but I would say Tom Cruise in the 90s, because it wasn't just him. Brad Pitt had this kind of power. Julia Roberts was Julia Roberts was in a bunch of hit movies in a row. Hugh Grant was in a few hit movies in a row. I mean, I think there used to be actors who could sell movies in the 90s. Adam Sandler's whole career's pretty much that. He made a bunch of terrible movies that still made money because he's Adam Sandler. I mean, Adam Sandler's a great example. Do you think The Waterboy would have made the money it did if it didn't star him coming off the success? Because Adam Sandler's career is interesting when you look at it, his early films. Yeah, but we're talking about one person, if only referencing... No, I'm talking about a lot of people from the 90s and 80s. I mean, there's a lot of people. Jim Carrey. Think about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, in just a few years, went from doing Dumb and Dumber, which was a low-budget flick, became a huge hit. Then he did The Mask, which was a film that cost $18 million and made $350 million worldwide. Then he's in Batman Forever. He helped the box office of that movie, a lot of people still think, because he was he blew up in like 1 year. Liar Liar. Do you think Liar Liar would have made $300 million if Jim Carrey wasn't in it? I don't think so. I think there was a lot in the 90s. I don't think it really exists as much now, but I think in the 90s it was still very much, actors were still a big deal. It was before the internet dominated everything too. You know, people went to the movies a lot back then as well. Yeah, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was a huge star in the 80s and 90s, and yeah, Dr. Dolittle and the Nutty Professor, and then yeah, Beverly Hills Cop, 300 million worldwide. It's yeah, Russell Crowe had a good run. Gladiator. Yeah, I think a lot of actors. I don't necessarily think they all have box. I think a lot of it now is, unfortunately, that the movie sold now on spectacle and what franchise it's tied to or what IP it is. Like, oh wow, that's a new film in the Marvel, or though that's a new Star Wars film. Where, you know, back in the 90s, something like, you know, you could put Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle with Meg Ryan, and you knew people were probably going to go see it. And I'm not quite sure that exists anymore today. You'll have little bumps, like Chris Pratt had a really good year where he seemed to have a lot of, oh yeah, Arnold too, big time, yeah, Terminator 2, Total Recall. Man, Arnold in the early 90s was like unstoppable. True Lies, all of his films were like money makers. He was a kill. He had tons of box office pull by the late 80s and then to the early 90s. Like, there's that era of Arnold. He got paid like, it was in it, like, I can't remember, he got paid like so much money to say every line in Terminator 2. It was crazy. They paid him a crap load of money for that movie. Yeah, Adrian Brody's career never really took off. You know, it was weird. It was always like, yeah, you're right, Jack Nicholson. That's a great point. Jack Nicholson somehow stayed relevant and popular with in box office pull for decades. He did it in the 70s. He was in huge hits. He did it in the 80s. He was in, oh yeah, Sylvester Stallone, obviously, Rocky, and that was the era of the movie star, I'd say. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's obviously the 30s and the 40s and the 50s when it was just driven by movie stars, but I still think that, in the 80s and 90s, movie stars were a big reason why people went to the theater, and I just think it wasn't until recently that kind of changed. Yeah, it is weird. Yeah, it is weird with Last Action Hero. What I think would happen with Arnold is he made a bunch of bad career decisions. Last Action Hero wasn't very good. It came out the same weekend as Jurassic Park, which was a horrible thing. It came out like around the same time. It was like when they released The Thing the same weekend as E.T. Of course, everyone went to go see E.T. and The Thing just kind of fell in the background. And then Arnold was in Eraser, which actually did pretty well, but I don't think Eraser's a very good movie. I mean, unfortunately, Arnold was in a bunch of bad action movies after the masterwork that was Terminator 2. I think he was unfortunately in a bunch of bad movies. I can't think of many of his films after that are very good. I think if he had been, True Lies is great. But if he had been, True Lies did well. But if he had kept up with the consistency, maybe because he didn't work with James Cameron, and he just lost a lot of those great directors that he was working with. Because when he made stuff like Predator and all that, or Total Recall, he was working with great filmmakers like Paul Verhoeven. So I don't know, Arnold, unfortunately, he became, I think, too big for his own good and made a bunch of bad decisions, and that kind of killed his career. I think had he been smarter, like Kindergarten Cop was a smart decision. That was a really smart movie to make at the time. Junior was a bad idea. That's a really dumb idea for a movie, and they had to have known that was going to look crappy. Where Kindergarten Cop, it's like, hey, just put Arnold in with a bunch of kids and have him play off the kids. You have a hit movie. Huge hit movie. Yeah, at that time, he was really big. When Twins came out and Kindergarten Cop, Arnold was huge. Those made a lot of money. And I think he should have stuck with that kind of comedy thing and not... Unfortunately, he kept trying to repeat the success. Well, that was right before he really became a big star, was Running Man and Red Heat. He was still kind of in that transitioning period. Because Conan the Barbarian wasn't a big hit, and Terminator did really good because it had a low budget. But he really didn't become a big star until, like, right around the late 80s. It was once, because VHS was so big at the time. Like, Running Man was a flop at the theater. Running Man did huge on video. I mean, beast on video. Red Heat did great on video. Predator did great on video. Terminator 1 was a huge movie on video. That was the era of VHS. People would, Blade Runner has almost its entire fan base off video. A lot of films. So that's the thing people don't get is Arnold's career. He was kind of a slow build. Nobody really took him seriously that much. And then after he made so many movies, people were watching them on video, and then people became big fans of Commando. Commando's a film that a lot of people watched renting from a video store. And then a lot of people rediscovered Terminator on television and all that. And then by the time we got around the era of Twins and all that, he just had one hit after another. I think those comedies, even the flops like Junior, benefit his career overall, and that's why he and Sly were able to surpass Van Damme and Seagal. I think they gave themselves statuses that Van Damme and Seagal never reached. Unfortunately, Seagal and Van Damme never really got kind of past being jokes, I feel. Maybe Time Cop, where Sly and Arnold were able to make themselves kind of Hollywood legends. I think, The Pacifier is still popular on cable, and still popular. Did really well on video. Those are films that people still watch years later. Like, people still watch Kindergarten Cop now. People still watch that movie. That's the kind of stuff that you can't... Like, that keeps Arnold a movie star. Even if he's not relevant as much today, he's always going to be a movie star because he'll have that run of movies. How many people have seen Predator now compared to when Predator came out? When Predator came out, I don't think Sly ever won the Oscar, did he? I don't think he won the Oscar for Rocky. Did Rocky win this? Didn't Patty Chayefsky win for Network? I don't think Sly won. I don't think Sly lost Best Actor and Best Screenplay. Did he get like a special Oscar? Like one of those special ones? Because I know he didn't win one for Rocky. Because that was the year of Network and Patty Chayefsky. And by the way, Network should have won Best Picture. It's frickin' ridiculous. that Rocky beat Network and Taxi Driver and All the President's Men for Best Picture. And listen, I love Rocky as much as anyone. Rocky's an amazing movie. It's one of the it's a great film. It's a film that's about nothing, and it's so powerful and raw and real, and it's classic Hollywood. But man, you can't compare that to Network. It's ridiculous. And like Network won 4 Oscars. All the President's Men won 4 Oscars, and then they gave Best Picture to Rocky because it was the big crowd pleaser and everyone loved it that year. And like I said, I love Rocky. But, oh, he won Best Picture? Was he a producer? See, I didn't think he won for one. I didn't think he won. I didn't know he did get one, because whenever I read about that, they never mentioned him having an Oscar. I didn't know he got one. Yeah, I know Rocky won Best Picture. I just didn't know if his name was on there as a producer. Because, Sly won for Rocky as a producer. Yeah, I didn't know if they gave him credit on it as a producer, because sometimes they don't do that. It's weird. Well, yeah, John Avildsen won for director, which is another decision I don't agree with. Very good director, did The Karate Kid, but are you trying to tell me his work was better than Sidney Lumet's work on Network? Please. It's laughable. Everything that's accomplished in Rocky with the grit is done 10 times better. Is 10 times better in Taxi Driver, and yeah, Network's just like one of the greatest films ever made. No, and Alan J. Pakula's work on All the President's Men is far superior. He wasn't a producer. I was incorrect. So he did not win Best Picture. He didn't. I don't think Sly won an Oscar. I swear he didn't win one. Maybe he did. Yeah, I don't think he won. I think the other people had their names on that movie. I don't think he got, because he didn't. I don't think he was a producer. Was he? I think he just wrote the screenplay and was in it, and then they got the money. The money got invested and all that, and then they went and shot the movie. But I don't know if he was a producer on the movie. Was he? Sly went on to become a producer, I think, on Rocky 2 and all that, and all of his other films like that. But I don't know if he was a producer on the first Rocky. But well, since when was his Oscar been about quality? Well, it sucks because Rocky's a great movie. That's the thing. Like the movie is great. Like it just sucks because that was a year where there were so many great movies, and I just feel like, I don't know, it just would have been great to see Sidney Lumet win Best Director. It just would have been amazing to go up there and see him win that. Or it would have been great to see Scorsese win for Taxi Driver. That would have been amazing. And they didn't even nominate Scorsese. He didn't get nominated for Taxi Driver, maybe his best work as a director. That's so nuts. Did you like Mindhunter? I've only seen a couple episodes, but I did like those 2 episodes I watched. Quite a bit. It's a little slow. It's a little clinical. I know David Fincher likes the clinical style, and that's what he goes for, and I like it in his movies. But the show so far, I hope it's got amazing things about it, though. But yeah, I am feeling Fincher's clinical style a little bit too much. I don't know if he works as well with that on television. It's like he's so perfect for a 2-hour movie, but then when he directs a couple episodes of a show, it never, like, I felt that way about the House of Cards pilot. I really liked it, but it didn't blow me away, and David Fincher directing it, and I was kind of like, well, this is good. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah, it was Bergman. Yeah, he was up that year too. Good point. Yeah, well, Kurosawa only got nominated for Ron. He didn't get nominated his whole career until, pretty much the end of it. A well-deserved nomination, though, I might add. One of the greatest directorial efforts ever put to celluloid is Kurosawa's 70-year-old man making a movie, and it's one of the greatest, it's one of the best shot movies and just ever made, by far. Mindhunter is better than the train wreck that is well, yeah, anything's better than Criminal Minds. That show blows. I used to go visit my mom just to talk to her and stuff, and she'd always be watching that damn show and tell me about it, and I was like, oh my god. Tyler Perry's Boo to a Medea Halloween. $42 million domestic, $43 million worldwide. Very tame foreign box office, which is typical for Tyler Perry. $25 million budget with marketing. They're not going to make it a lot of money off this. And the first film that came out last year made $73 million on a $20 million budget, and this one's not coming very close to that. Let's see where it's at. Yeah, it had a 53% drop this weekend. Yeah, I don't see it making much more than $50 million, with the budget, they might make out okay, but this is one of Tyler Perry's lesser performing Medea movies. Typically, Medea does a little bit better than this. I don't think he should have made a sequel. He should have done a new premise. That's what it is with Medea. It's got to be a new idea. Oh yeah, no, yeah, Ron's one of my favorite movies too. I own the Criterion of it. I own the new Blu-ray of it. I own an old special edition of it. Yeah, it does. It said 25. And that's the thing. You know, Tyler Perry pocketed $20 million and then made the film for $5 million. You know that's what happened. There's no way he spent $25 million. There's no way that he went and bought the cameras, the sets. It looks like they went to a Halloween store, a spirits store, and just got some stuff. There's no way that movie cost $25 million. Yeah, I've heard it's a remake. That's what's funny. He just made the same movie twice. Like, what? It's like he's doing it just to see if he can. Just to see if he can get away with it. Zodiac movie was dark. I remember liking the theater being really creeped out. Yeah, that movie is creepy. It kind of stays with you. Yeah, Medea Thanksgiving would have been a good idea. I agree with that idea. I think that would have worked. Medea stuffing a turkey. I would have watched that. $10 million budget for Jigsaw, already dropping at the box office. $30 million foreign, $59 million worldwide. We'll end up making profit, of course. 59% drop in a second weekend. The Saw franchise always dropped pretty bad back in the day, but it used to have such big opening weekends of like 30 million to 35 million that even though they had a big drop, the film would always still end up making 60 million at minimum, if not better. Where this film, the opening weekend was 16 million, which wasn't that great, and it probably won't make 40 million. I'd be surprised if it did domestically. Luckily, they didn't spend a lot. It's the same budget as what the last Saw film cost, pretty much, like almost going back years ago. That was about the budget they were, was $10 million. $30 million foreign box office. It might make $100 million worldwide. I still like the first Saw movie. I still like what James Wan and Lee Winnell did. I think a lot of that movie sucks when they're not in the bathroom. And it's like a bad thriller, but when they're in that bathroom and it's the two guys trying to figure it out together, there's a little bit of Hitchcock in there. It really is. It's very well done. It's kind of clever, the way they communicate and everything, and the cigarette and all that. I like that stuff. But yeah, all the other Saw films. Saw 2 is a film a lot of people like. I get it, I guess. I'm not a big fan, and that franchise, I think its day is done. This was a weird cash-in to try and bring this back. I think they should have waited even longer. I think if you gave enough space and time, you could come back with Saw and be like, hey, it's been like 20 years. But doing it not that long after Saw's really been over, people who were Saw fans, you know, they're either done with that franchise or they watch their DVDs so much they don't care anymore. A Bad Mom's Christmas. Now, this is a disappointing opening weekend, and I think there's a big reason for that. They released this film too early. I think they should have waited to release this. Way too early to release this, and don't release it on the same weekend as Thor. The original Bad Moms was the surprise hit of 2016. That film cost $20 million, and out of nowhere, and it was from the guys who wrote, I think it's from the guys who wrote The Hangover. Yeah, they wrote The Hangover, The Change Up, 21 and Over, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, Four Christmases. They wrote and directed it, and it had Mila Kunis, Christina Applegate, and Kristen Bell. Jada Pinkett Smith. But anyway, this film came out and had a $23 million opening weekend, which was really surprising. We were like, oh, that film did well. And then the word of mouth was terrific. The film held really well. And a lot of us used this last year as an argument against Ghostbusters, because the whole claim was people didn't want to go see a female comedy, and Ghostbusters bombed because of sexist trolls. And there was a lot of finger pointing and not taking blame. And then Bad Moms came out with this $20 million budget and was a huge hit. So it kind of just shut up the Ghostbusters thing that the studio was trying to push and Paul Feig was trying to push. Where it's like, dude, just shut up. You made a bad movie and it bombed. Live with it. Accept that you made a bad movie that bombed. If you can accept that, we'd all respect you and be happy. If you just said, like, hey, I shouldn't have made that movie. It sucks. Sometimes the filmmaker, like when they asked Sylvester Stallone that question about Rocky 5, what would you give Rocky 5? And he goes, 0. It's a 0. And he just says it's bad. Yeah, it's a bad movie. It was a bad sequel. It hurt the franchise for years. But outside of the amazing street fight with Tommy, don't get me wrong, and Sly was right. It's a bad movie, and he knew it was bad. Don't lie that you know you made crap. And it's not just that. It's like your movie didn't do well. There's nobody to blame at the end of the day for Ghostbusters not doing well, except for the horrible decision to not make a sequel to Ghostbusters. So anyway, 23 million, 14 million, then it held 18%, 30, 29, 14. This film held really well, ended up making 113 million, 183 million worldwide. Was one of the real surprise hits. Mila Kunis kind of has she has some pull. Her movies actually do okay. Ever since she really broke out that year, the year of Black Swan. But A Bad Mom's Christmas, I think they made almost a little too quick. I don't think you should have made a sequel right after. And Christmas comedies, I think, would play better closer to Thanksgiving or December, while releasing this in the first weekend of December, I don't think was a good idea at all. I think it was a little too early, so you get a 17 million opening weekend. Low budget flick, 28 million, but I don't think the word of mouth's going to be there like it was before. And there's no way I think this is going to make 100 million like the previous one. And first one, they really had a premise like these moms are bad moms. And the trailer is they like to party. A Bad Mom's Christmas isn't, it's just a gimmicky, like, let's tack on Christmas. And I don't know, like I said, I think bad release date and not enough time between the original Bad Moms to let hype kind of rebuild again. People are like, I already saw Bad Moms, I'll wait for video. Alright, here we are. Thor Ragnarok. So, God, I'm just, excuse me, burping over here. Okay. I think I predicted this. Now, I could be wrong. I think somebody asked me what the opening weekend for this film was going to be last week, and I swear I said 120 million. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to go back and listen. I swear I said 120 million was like my last guess. So I hope that's true, because I did it. But this is better opening weekend than Spider-Man Homecoming, a film that came out during the summer. And made 117 million. Now, Spider-Man Homecomings held really well through the months of August, and the word of mouth came through, and it ended up making 333 million domestic. So it did carry through. At the beginning, it didn't look like it was going to hold on that well. The drops were pretty steep at first. Then it started to hold really well. But 117 million opening weekend. There's really not much to say here outside of Marvel killed it. They killed it. This was a slam dunk across the board. You have to say it was. The third Thor movie, opening above the Spider-Man film, and doing this well. And don't get me wrong, it has the Hulk in it, which does, I think, give it a boost. The Hulk's become quite a popular character since the Avengers, and they haven't used him in a film like this. You had to wait for Avengers films to get the Hulk. But getting Taika Waititi coming off low-budget which makes me think, why didn't they keep Edgar Wright on Ant-Man if they were going to let James Gunn and Taika Waititi do what they wanted to do? It kind of, I don't know, bumps me out, because I saw interviews with him, and he was talking about how they just improvised a lot of the dialogue in this new Thor movie, and he just kind of did what he wanted, and there was no rules, and they just kind of used the script as a blueprint, and they did what they wanted. I don't know, it's like, why couldn't you let Edgar Wright do that with Ant-Man? I'll never really get that, why they didn't let that movie go, because people seem to like the Marvel movies that are different. They don't, I mean, Ant-Man did really well, but it probably would have made that money with Edgar Wright, if not more money. So I've always been baffled by that. But anyway, I've seen interviews with him. He talked about how he did like this little, demo reel for them using Immigrant Song, and then they bought the rights to it. They really liked his pitch. They brought him in. He worked months on this movie, and he said he wanted to bring, New Zealand, Australia, and kind of humor to it. And then, it really took off. The reviews and the hype were building. The trailer hits were gigantic. This movie was getting massive hits on social media. Like, some of the biggest hits, it was like It and this and, were some of the biggest hits. Marvel has a track record of making anything turn into a hit. Doctor Strange. They really haven't had a bomb outside of The Incredible Hulk. And maybe Iron Man 2, which wasn't a bomb, didn't perform as well as they expected it to do. Maybe domestically it was a little bit of an underperformer. But anyway, they bring in this new director. Thor, the Dark World is one of Marvel's worst reviewed films. It's got mixed to negative reviews. I thought it was a terrible movie. It's one of the most boring films I've ever watched. The original Thor was a surprise hit back in 2011 and got surprisingly good reviews. Made 65 million opening weekend and made 450 million worldwide. And became a very popular movie on video and on television throughout the years. And adjusted for ticket price inflation, made $200 million. Then we got Thor: The Dark World, which was brought to us by director Alan Taylor from Game of Thrones. I was very excited for this movie because of Alan Taylor, and the film was, like I said, it's very boring. It's got easily the worst villain of the MCU, and it's just one of the most mediocre screenplays they may ever produced. And I don't really like anything about it except the last 20 minutes. There's like a portal sequence, and that's kind of fun. It's like the video game Portal. Anyway, it opened very well to 85 million, which was very good, but then it didn't hold that well. It dropped pretty steep, 57, 61%. Had a good hold in November, then 56, 41, 52, 52. Was not as well liked as the first Thor movie. A lot of people did not like, a lot of 2.5 to 2-star reviews. It had like 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. It cost 170 million without marketing, made 206 million domestic. This was coming off the Avengers. This is what people called the Avengers effect, where Iron Man 3 made a lot of money, and Captain America Winter Soldier made a lot more money, and then this made a lot of money, where the Avengers popularized these characters to an international audience, and in a way domestically that they had never been before, then it made all of them get a new status. And I agree with that. I do think the Avengers effect was a real thing. I think Joss Whedon, despite all of my issues with the man, deserves credit for what he did at that movie, and it kicked off, I think, making Thor a very popular character, making the Hulk more popular than he ever was before that, making Captain America popular again, because he wrote so many one-liners and gave everyone so many things to do that they all felt like a movie star in that movie. They all got to shine in that. Black Widow got to shine. Hawkeye's probably the one who took a secondary role, backseat a lot in that film, which Whedon tried to make up for in Age of Ultron. But anyway, this film ended up making 644 million worldwide. Not bad at all. That was pretty good. It was surpassed by Winter Soldier that year. I think it was this year. It was probably the year after that, actually. I think it was 2014. But Winter Soldier came out and ended up being a lot of people's favorite Marvel movie the next year, and had the same budget and opened at 95 million, which was 10 million more, and made 714 million worldwide. Now, it's funny, when you go back to the first Thor, it outperformed Captain America by quite a bit, by about 100 million. Then you just cut to a few years later, and Captain America's outperforming Thor, and Chris Evans as Steve Rogers is right there as, I'd say more popular than Chris Hemsworth, the Thor. Then you get the Civil War, but that had everyone in it, so I don't totally count that. But then Civil War makes 1.1 billion, and it's technically a third Captain America film, but in my opinion, it's Avengers 2.5, basically. It's half an Avengers movie. Too many of them are in that movie. There's just too many. Black Panther's in there, Ant-Man's in there, Spider-Man's in there. They all get big moments, too. It takes away from Captain America at a lot of points, which is why I prefer Winter Soldier. It's more focused. It's just a movie about Cap. It's not about all this other crap going on. It's about him and Bucky and their relationship, But Thor Ragnarok, this was a perfect storm. Great trailer, marketing campaign. The use of Immigrant Song was genius. That song always gets people pumped up. Everyone even loves that in School of Rock when Jack Black sings it in the van. Good choice, Linklater. We knew this was going to do well. Everyone knew this was going to open at 100 million. Having Jeff Goldblum in it, having Cate Blanchett in it, Carl Urban, Anthony Hopkins, obviously, Idris Elba, Tom Hiddleston. But those new additions of Jeff Goldblum and Cate Blanchett I thought were genius. Mark Ruffalo, bringing him in here, great idea. It's a lot of Hulk fans going to see this with Thor fans. So you go from an $85 million opening weekend in 2013. We jump 4 years later after a very negative reception to that film. And now you're looking at a film that has 93% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 7.5 average and 88% from the top critics. It is one of the best reviewed Marvel films. It's right above Doctor Strange in reviews. It's right around where Doctor Strange's reviews were. And it's just below like something like Guardians of the Galaxy, Civil War, and Iron Man 1. But this is one of their better reviewed movies. It actually overall has better reviews than Winter Soldier on average. I'd say they're about the same though. But so anyway, this is one of Marvel's best reviewed films. It's they went with the Guardians of Galaxy approach here. Let's go straight up comedy and not take ourselves so seriously, which I think maybe that was the issue with The Dark World. They took Thor way too seriously, and he's a character. I think Chris Hemsworth is a funny actor and very comedic, and he's so big and bulky and perfect looking, it is almost kind of a joke in itself. And I think that probably that plays into it. I think what Joss Whedon did so well in the first Avengers was have him play it up so comedically. I love that moment in Age of Ultron where he's all like, we will heal the bloodshed and screams of our enemies," when he comes to talk to the Hulk. Thor should be funny. He should be a guy that's unaware of himself. He's so meddling, over the top, and that moment, that's a brilliant moment Kenneth Branagh comes up with, or the writers, where he's breaking the coffee mugs in the first movie. Another. That's very funny. And this movie goes totally with that mindset about the Thor character. Let's have fun, and then let's make the Hulk just a big puppy. But this came out last week, and foolishly, I did not cover it in Box Office Addict, when it was the big deal. It opened up last week, and it made $100 million at the international box office. My bad. I'm also the guy that forgot to bring up Wolf Warrior 2 for weeks. But this, in its second weekend of international release, the foreign box office, it's in all markets now, pretty much. They've released it everywhere. It did, I think, $150 million this weekend. So it's at $306 million. Now let's remember, the last Thor movie's foreign box office total was what was it, like $440 million or something like that. So this film already is outpacing that film in 2 weeks, even though it's already released everywhere. That's a great second weekend. When your second weekend's over $100 million, that's a good sign for word of mouth to your international numbers. So already this looks like it's going to pass the second Thor movie there. So let's just say at a conservative place, 500 million international or foreign. Let's just be conservative with that. Let's say 500 million. Okay, then now you're dealing with this domestic number, because Spider-Man Homecoming, you had that 117 million, and then that film picked up momentum later on. Now, this film, I think, is going to be a little bit more front-loaded. I don't think it's going to quite pick up momentum later like Spider-Man did. I think what happened was a lot of people were hesitant to go see Spider-Man at first, and then after a while, people went to go see it when they had more time in August. And there was less stuff coming out finally. And then everyone really liked it as this high school YA movie, this funny movie. I don't think people really went to go see it as a blockbuster. I think it was more of a crowd pleaser. 80s, in a lot of ways, what John Hughes did do, what he would make his films into hits, with the kind of movies they were. But I think that's why it really caught on, where this is the spectacle and the comedy and all that. I think this will have really good holds, but I don't know if it'll quite reach that 333 million of Spider-Man Homecoming, but it could. My guess is somewhere more around 275 to 290, maybe 300 to 315. It is very possible. But, because, granted, it should do that, because Man of Steel's opening weekend was about this, and that film had terrible holds, and it made 290. So I guess this is going to make 300 million. You have to think, it's got like an A cinema score, so let's say 315 to 320. I'd say. I'm not sure if it'll reach that 330. It doesn't have to. I think this will probably perform around where Iron Man 1 did at the time, not adjusted for ticket, because now that movie made like 365. But let's say 318, which is amazing. To take Thor from 180 million, which was surprisingly good for a first film, then to a $200 million franchise, which was a little bit better, really. It didn't do that much better. Then to a $300 million domestic franchise, that puts Thor in a whole different place. That puts Thor into the big names, And what's crazy is they have all these separate franchises doing this well. Like, Thor's its own franchise. Black Panther's going to become its own franchise. Ant-Man's its own franchise now. Spider-Man has a new franchise now. There was the Iron Man franchise, and then they have the Avengers films, then they have the Guardians franchise. They have separate movie franchises doing well simultaneously that all interconnect. That's the craziest part, is that it's all the fans going to see the movies, but you can see from the box office that to varying degrees do people go see these movies, which means they have different fan bases depending on the movie. And that might be Marvel's greatest trick, is that they're able to give the illusion of creating different types of genres and brands and all that, when it's really all kind of the same thing and the same team and it's all done in the same house with the same people overlooking it. But you don't really realize they got audiences not thinking that. They're like, oh, I'm going to go see Ant-Man because I want to go see a movie about a guy who shrinks. Oh, I want to go see Thor Ragnarok because I want to go see a heavy metal magazine turned into really, this honestly proves in a lot of ways, too, like, you can do the Zack Snyder over-the-top crazy visuals, but if you have a light touch and comedic sensibilities and you could do it, you're going to perform, I think, a lot better, because even though this has a steep budget of $180 million, which is really only $10 million more than the second film from a few years ago, so really it's not that bad of a budget. This opening weekend is so much better than the previous two Thor films, and it's such a big jump, that it puts Thor into a whole new place. This is going to be this is like Chris Hemsworth's big movie star moment, not in Avengers context, because he's the lead in this, and this is going to be huge for everyone in this. I think Jeff Goldblum always helps. Jeff Goldblum has a lot of box office power. People like to deny that people love Jeff Goldblum. But yeah, good marketing campaign. Terrific marketing campaign. One of the best of the year. I'd say this had the second or third best marketing campaign behind It. It definitely had the best marketing campaign this year. No question about it. Those trailers were, even if you didn't like them, that was a good marketing campaign. The posters, the thing with the balloon, genius. Although the marketing for It kind of almost like writes it. It's right there for you. Thor Ragnarok, on the other hand, though, this could have blown up in their faces had the reviews been lesser, or if it wasn't as a movie that people seem to be so positive when they get out of it. But they were. The word of mouth's been good for a while. Apparently Marvel was very happy with this film. And yeah, it's doing a lot better than stuff that did really well. Like Doctor Strange did really well. But this is outperforming a lot of those. It being a third film in a trilogy shows that Marvel's films can build up like Captain America or Iron Man built up to a $1.3 billion third film. So that makes you think, okay, well, maybe Ant-Man will have a big third film, and then down the road, Black Panther and all that. So Guardians of the Galaxy 3, even though it didn't do so much better than the first film, really at all, it did pretty much about the same. It did 100 million more worldwide, but when you consider ticket inflation, it really wasn't that much of a difference. You don't know if the third film won't come out and make 1.1 billion or something. But man, 427 million already is killer. Easily, I think, going to make 500 mil foreign at this point. So if we're looking at those numbers, if we're saying 500 million and then 800 million worldwide is going to happen for a Thor movie. Okay, if not more, this might end up making like 850 million. I'm not going to go quite 900 million yet, but still 800 million for a $180 million Thor movie. And the year of Marvel that they had Spider-Man, which was a Sony film, but Marvel, pretty much Marvel did all the work. They made a lot of that movie. That film making the money it did, 879 million, where it's the most successful debut film they've had. Is Spider-Man: Homecoming for a character, and I think it's the most successful worldwide debut superhero film when not adjusted for ticket price inflation. It was Wonder Woman for a minute, and then Spider-Man passed it internationally. But yeah. If you look at it, all the superhero films that did really well this year, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, Logan, and now this, they all got great reviews. Each one of these films, like Thor, 93%, Wonder Woman, 93%, Guardians got 81, 82%. It got really good reviews. Spider-Man Homecoming, 93%. Logan had like 93%. So it was a very successful year, not just in these films being well received by critics, but also audiences responding to them. They're being the biggest films in some franchises. Like for Logan, for Wolverine, this is his biggest solo movie by far. It was a huge hit. It didn't have a big budget. It cost $97 million and made $616 million worldwide. Huge hit. Logan was a huge hit and very acclaimed film. And then you get Wonder Woman, which had a pretty conservative budget of $149 million, $821 million worldwide, and domestically it was the biggest film of the summer. And then Guardians 2. Only when compared to the first one, maybe you could say it was disappointing, but $200 million budget, $389 million domestic, $863 million worldwide. This was a good year financially and critically for superhero films. There wasn't really the one that came out there wasn't the big bomb like there typically would be, or there wasn't the one that was considered lesser. Some people love Thor, some people love Wonder Woman, some people like Spider-Man Homecoming more, and some people like Guardians 2 more. People seem to disagree about which one they like more. It's kind of like the year Days of Future Past, Winter Soldier, and Guardians came out, and everyone was debating, everyone loved Guardians, everyone loved Winter Soldier, and everyone loved Days of Future Past, and you just debated which one you liked better, and they all did really well. And that's what we're in right now. So yeah, the comic book movie had a great year. I'd say that and the horror movies this year. It, Split, Get Out, Annabelle Creation, they also dominated this year at the box office, especially when you look at their budgets. Because a lot of these films up here, like Pirates, this film was very expensive. They had $300 million in that movie, just in the budget. And, something like Despicable Me 3, that's animation, that's Illumination. Fate of the Furious is a franchise that's huge and always makes money. Beauty and the Beast is an adaptation of one of the most famous stories ever, and then one of the most famous animated films ever, apart from that. You know, Kong, Skull Island, a lot of franchise stuff here. But yeah, the horror films were one of the only ones where Get Out, you could really get by on just the premise and a low budget. Baby Driver did really well this year. Sci-fi is not having a good year. Alien Covenant and Blade Runner 2049 both made $240 million. Alien Covenant had a much lower budget of $100 million, but they still said they didn't really make any money off of it because of the domestic total. Then Ridley Scott says he doesn't even think there's any more story to tell in the Alien franchise now. It's like, God, really? Quit contradicting yourself. Before it was there's unlimited story, now there's no more story. Baywatch did well worldwide, did not do that well domestically. That's one of those films that The Rock had that didn't do that great, but it is showing that the movie star still seems to be a thing in the and around the world, just not in America. Maybe because these people couldn't go see every movie like they can now, so they just do a lot better. Man, Dog's Purpose, $196 million worldwide. That was a really big hit. Valerian didn't do well, obviously, because its budget was outrageously high. Let's see. Let's go down the list here. Yeah, there's not much else to talk about here. I know I said I wasn't going to focus on some of these other movies, but yeah, it's been a really good year in particular for comic book movies and horror films, which it's just showing that everything else is kind of falling to the wayside. You know, Transformers, Kong, Pirates of the Caribbean, War for the Planet of the Apes even didn't do that great. Still hasn't made $500 million. You know, a lot of these other franchises kind of died off. The Mummy, Kingsman, you know, isn't doing as well as the first film. But the superhero films are all, you know, overperforming, and horror films are, you know, just killing it. They're turning into blockbusters. I mean, it's a bigger blockbuster than most of the blockbusters that came out this year, and it's a horror movie. It's crazy. Why can't I watch photorealistic apes in one franchise, but Stefan one looks like photorealistic ass? Because despite what people say, Zack Snyder's actually not that talented with CGI, and he's had an issue with that his whole career. There's this weird thing where he's a very talented visual director, but this whole argument that he's so perfect with everything, his CGI's always looked kind of fake to me. I think a lot of the CGI looked fake in 300. I think a lot of it looked fake in Watchmen. You could tell when it was CG. I think a lot of it looked fake in Man of Steel's probably his best looking film from a special effects standpoint in a lot of ways, because I think there's great special effects. Watchmen has Dr. Manhattan. That's a great effect, but then he has some effects that look fake as hell. You know, I don't know. He's weird like that. I agree she's always hot, but I do think Cate Blanchett's especially hot in the Thor Ragnarok stuff. I am into this like emo gothic-y Kate thing. The dark hair is genius. It's frickin' genius. Like, and then, you know, the eye makeup and all that. It's like, oh my god, where has this been my whole life? Okay, let's see. Please, no spoilers over Thor. Oh, I wasn't planning on spoiling it. I don't credit the poor CGI to that the years to develop the character rig and appearance of the big bad, yet it turns out like a PS3 character. I'm assuming they're talking about Steppenwolf. Spider-Man Homecoming is the most crappy Marvel movie I've seen yet. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but man, you really think it's worse than Thor: The Dark World or Iron Man 2? Those are pretty bad. Iron Man 2 is a really bad movie. Like, it just is. I remember walking in the theater being like, God, that's such a... It's just characters talking over each other, a plot that goes nowhere. It's like a big commercial for the Avengers. It's a really bad movie. Let's see. Shrek 3's best sequence is when they put Immigrant Song followed by Heart's Barracuda to play. I know Immigrant Song always works. It's just one of those things. Justice League might have the Wonder Woman fans. I think I don't think that'll matter. The movie cost too much. Yeah, and they're saying opening weekend predictions of like 120 million. If Justice League opens the same as Thor, that's not good by comparison. Because Thor is legit just the Thor and Hulk, and Justice League is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash. We're not going to include Cyborg because it seems like nobody cares about him. And yeah, no way. That would be a $120 million opening weekend for... That would be Man of Steel's opening weekend for Justice League. That would just show you how little they've grown. Goldblum clearly brought in that extra $100 million. Yeah. You watch Mr. Robot. Yeah, I do. I'm just not caught up with the current season of it. But I do watch Mr. Robot, and I like Mr. Robot. I can only remember the Avengers theme off the top of my head. Oh, wait. Thor had a good theme. Yeah, Thor did have a good theme. It was a ripoff, but I remember Thor did have a catchy theme. I think most recent Marvel flicks have forgettable scores, but that's just me. Oh, yeah, most movie scores in general now are forgettable. It's not just Marvel, it's just kind of everything. And let's see. So you're saying we need Thor and Deadpool buddy cop movie. I would be up for that. I'd watch that movie. Bless Jaws Whedon. Yeah, Loki is definitely the character who really became popular, I think, more than almost anyone from the Thor movies. I think Loki's really become, like, one of the fan favorites. And I know so many women like Loki. He's really popular with the women. Not that Chris Hemsworth isn't. But he seemed like, but yeah, Loki, the women liked him. I think he was the right choice as the villain. And he was one of the only villains that had, like, a motivation and backstory in, in any of the first Marvel films. He's one of the only villains that left an impact. Let's see, sorry, I'm trying to read some stuff I might have missed. I hate the crapheads that frequent the theaters these days, so I wait for the first couple weekends for the freaks to get the hell back in their holes. That's funny. But isn't Kate getting close to the big 4-0? I thought Kate Blanchett was already there. I thought she was already like. Isn't she closer to like 50? I don't think she's that young. Alright, so let's see if I just missed anything real quick just to go back over. Really fun episode this week, though. I'm getting hungry, though. I haven't eaten today, and it's killing me. It's legit killing me. I'm slowly dying. There's not going to be anything left. There won't be nothing. Just an annoying voice. Okay, The Snowman. Let's go back to that film. That film that's been doing so poorly. Yeah, not really picking up momentum there. Poor Thomas Alfredson. Made my favorite vampire movie of all time. I'm very upset to see him having a film that fell apart like that. To me, a very talented filmmaker with a great sense of tone and grayness to human morality. You know, the grayness to characters. He's such a subtle filmmaker. He doesn't like explaining things to you really, and that's what's so. There's something genius about how he does it. It's something a lot of filmmakers can't do that he does. His gentle touch, while it also being very intense at once, is something that takes a certain kind of skill and intellect. He seems like a very intelligent filmmaker when I watch his work. And when I hear him talk, too. Florida Project, that's up 27%. That movie's doing really well. Low-budget flick. Making $3 million domestic, you know, and every weekend it seems to be doing better and better. And it's not in many theaters. It's in 189 theaters. So that's a heck of a performance. Got to be said. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. A lot of people tell me this movie's great. I haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it. It hasn't quite made $1 million yet, but it's one of those flicks. And it seems to be actually doing pretty well in 86 theaters, 400,000. That's good stuff. Up 78%. Good stuff. So some of those flicks aren't doing that bad right now. And then we have. Let's see how the My Little Pony movie's doing, which cost $8 million. $47 million worldwide. They probably made a little profit. But it still feels like, you know, like, what's the point? Lady Bird. This is one of the best reviewed films of the year from Greta Gerwig, who's someone I find very overrated. I don't love Frances Ha as much as everyone, and I don't love all of her work, but I'm going to see if the critics are right on this, because this film they're saying is like a masterpiece. And it's only like 93 minutes, and I guess she based it off her life, but it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's got like a 9 out of 10 across the board. And I'd say it's going to be up for some Oscar nominations. And I do like the trailer, so I'm hoping it looks good. Hey, Blood Money. I'm gonna ask, are you excited for Lady Bird? I know you're not a big fan of her either, like me, but I think it could be really good. You know, I did like the look of it. I also want to see that film Call Me By Your Name starring Armie Hammer. And a few movies I really want to see that I just haven't had a chance to. You know, I live near a city, but not close enough to just go see movies like that all the time. If I did, I'd probably go see all of those films. I wouldn't be going to see Thor. I would just be going to see those releases that are so tough to catch. I've heard Florida Project is amazing. Yeah, no, A24 pretty much does everything. I love you. No, I am not. I love you just up front with it. Nope, don't want to watch that. I like how you use the number 2. Oh, thank you. Oh, A24. Yeah, I said A24. Yeah, that's true. What do you think will be the next big Hollywood person to be taken down? Well, Brett Ratner was the obvious one. We all knew that was coming. Jesus, that wasn't even a secret. I want to go see Lucky Dude. I can't. Like, there's no theater around here showing that movie. I'd have to drive like 6 hours to go see that movie. I would love to go see Lucky. I'm gonna have to unfortunately wait for it to come out on DVD. That's the biggest problem right now. I don't live like the cities I live near too. Even like Pittsburgh, they don't even always show movies like that. So unfortunately, I don't always get to do that. So what do I think will be downhill? Brett Ratner, that was obvious. If Zack Snyder has always struggled with CGI in his films, how come he keeps getting hired? I don't think he's always struggled entirely. It just depends on the movie. Like Watchmen, that looked really good. Hey man, welcome to the thing. But Zack Snyder, the thing with the CGI is that it's not always bad. Like Dr. Manhattan looked amazing. It's just inconsistent. Like some of his special effects will look really good, and other things will look totally fake, like they were done on a screen. And a lot of it has to do with the lighting and what aesthetic he's going with and all that. Like Man of Steel has really good CGI special effects, and he does this like almost Terrence Malick meets documentary style, which I think looked bad, but the special effects look good. But then, yeah, Batman v Superman, a lot of the CGI looked like crap. Doomsday looked really bad, and it's like, okay, he's not consistent with it. Do you think there's a reason these films aren't making money because of the theater's limitations? I don't know if it's the theater's limitations, but I think it's hurting the theaters. Like that that whole thing about Star Wars getting 65% of the ticket profits is theaters are really upset about that. But I kind of agree with what they're saying. They're saying, hey, listen. They're like, guys, more people are going to go see this movie than any film this year, and they're going to buy popcorn and soda and help you guys out. I agree with them on that. I think that is true. I think Disney does have all the power with Star Wars. And Disney makes the only films all year round that make that kind of money. Like Thor's Disney, you know? So I think you kind of have to go with Disney on that. They get people in the theaters. Do I like Collider? I'm mixed on Collider. I think they're better than Screen Junkies. They're maybe not as funny always as Screen Junkies sometimes. I think Spencer's actually a funny guy and Hal's a funny guy. I think Dan's like boring as dirt, but I get his purpose. But Collider, they're alright. I don't think they're bad. They seem like people who want to say stuff and they try to not say it because they want to be popular and keep people on. Like, I don't think they want to kiss butt. I think they just kind of do it to be more popular, which I don't blame them. That makes sense. But they're not bad. I'm just not a huge fan. I think they make way too many videos of the same thing. Like they've already made like 20 videos on The Last Jedi. And it's just going over topics you could go over in one video. And I get why they do it. It just gets annoying. It's like, and they never talk about older films. They never talk about foreign films that much. Not much. And then whenever they do the movie trivia thing, I only have a hard time watching that because I'm kind of a trivia god. I'm a trivia snob even. I'm good at a lot of trivia, not just movie trivia. Because trivia is all just about knowing stuff. And when I watch that show, it just annoys me because I know every answer. So when somebody doesn't get it right. Oh, Andy Pigsore? Yeah, good old Andy Pigsore. Yeah, he's gone now. I love how they it's so awkward to watch Screen Junkies now. Like, they can't help but mention him and they don't know what to do. It's so funny. It's become entertaining in a new way. Like, don't mention Andy Sigpor. Or Pigsore. Sorry, Pigsore. What I like to say. Let's see. Do you like? But Collider, I'm not going to talk so bad on them. I think they're okay. But they are basically a normie movie review channel, news channel. But that's fine. Those things need to exist. I mean, Entertainment Tonight was that way, and I enjoy that. There's a place for that. And most people just want to do their thing, you know. But I do think the theater's limitations, I get what you mean. You mean limited by, like, how many movies a theater can have? Because if most theaters in a town only have a few screens, let's say 7, they can't show all these movies. They don't always have up-to-date technology at every theater. They don't always have all this, like the Alamo Drafthouse. People like drinking a beer and eating a meal at the theater. Most theaters, you just get a popcorn, a crappy hot dog, some nachos, and candy that cost way more than you want to spend. Instead, you wouldn't probably mind going to pay 10, 15 bucks for a meal and some beer and watching a movie. I think that's the future, is the Alamo Drafthouse format, the sitting down and eating and drinking. I think that's going to be the way theaters make money in the future. Because I don't think it's going to be the movies. I think it's going to be like, hey, let's go to... It's going to be just fun on a Friday instead of saying, hey, let's just go to the movie tonight. It was like, hey, dude, let's go to that movie and get drunk while we're at the movie and go have a meal. That's what makes it fun. And then the Alamo Drafthouse shows a lot of retro movies. I think retro movies will become a bigger thing. I think they'll start showing stuff like Back to the Future everywhere all the time and having the beer and stuff like that. I just think that's probably more of where it's going, which I'm 100% for. I think that would be a lot more entertaining, in my opinion. I would much prefer that to... And I want to go see old movies in the theater, really. Yeah, no, at least to Collider's credit, they are sex offender free, and all the guys that work there do seem to be like pretty good dudes. They seem like pretty nice guys, and I much prefer the female staff they have work at Collider than I do at Screen Junkies. I pretty much am bored and find all of the females on Screen Junkies unbearable, but Collider I think actually has some pretty good, they're token women geek girls that are very annoying on most YouTube channels. Yeah, man, think about it. Going out, yeah, because then you would have an excuse to go see a movie, even if you didn't want to go see the movie. Like, let's say I don't want to go see Tyler Perry Boo 2. I'd go see it if I was getting drunk and eating a meal at the movie. Like, yeah, of course I'd go then. I would just go to do that. But when you just go to sit and watch a movie and you have to be sober, and I know people get high before they go to the movies, or you could drink before you go to the movies, but it would be more fun to sit there and do it while you're watching the movie, and slowly get there, you know. But that's what it is. That's whatever. Let's see. My movie theater's the kind that doesn't give an F. They still have a giant standee advertising the Emoji Movie. I miss the 90s theaters. They used to have arcades in them. Some of them still do, but in the 90s, man, I'd go to the theater and there'd be an elaborate arcade. Like, half the theater would be an arcade, and then they would have pizza everywhere. Like, you could get a whole pizza and sit in the theater. And it was just a lot... I don't know, there's something about it. There's some really cool... Well, there's a lot of dirty theaters back then. When are you getting a token geek girl? I don't know. I don't know any. I had a lot of geek girl friends, and I still do, but a lot of them don't live near me. Am I excited for Justice League? I'm excited to see how bad it's going to be, or how good it is. I'm not excited to watch it as a movie, but I am excited that it's coming out, yes. Like, I am fast, like, I'm excited to see it and talk about it and know what's going to happen, yes. So, and it's going to be a great box office weekend to talk about, so yeah, definitely. I have a lot of reasons to be excited for that movie, though. I'm not excited to see it, though, because I want to see it. It's more like, everything around Justice League is going to be very interesting, I think, and it's worth talking about. I live near an indie theater, and they have family classics, midnight classics, some film fest, food, drink during... Yeah, that's what, like, Pittsburgh, there's a lot of theaters like that, whenever I mean, that's in every city, but, you go there and, you can get a drink before you go in, you know, it's like going to the opera or something, or to a stage show to Broadway or something like that, a musical. Yeah, it's fun, you get your drink and you get food, real food, and you can sit down there, and I think the local theaters, those town theaters need to start doing that, because cities are going that way, and that's the way to do it. It's going to get people back out. And there in Portland, there's a theater you can sit on an old couch and shoot up. What's the best chain theater? Well, I would have said before Carmike, but I think they were bought by AMC, and I'm not a huge AMC fan. I don't mind their big theaters, but Carmike got bought, and Distinta used to be. But for a long time, I thought Carmike was the best theater chain. But I think they were bought by AMC. I'm not sure. I think AMC pretty much owns all of it now. They own most of it. There used to be a lot of chains. I used to go to the Hollywood theaters back in the 90s and 2000s, which I think that might have even been AMC owned. But, yeah, Carmike was the one that I always went to. I really liked Carmike's when I traveled. Our arcade section has a rip-off Sega Rally, some crane games, and one of those punch game things. Yeah, see, a lot of them have that, yeah. Back in the 90s, it would be like... There'd be like 30 arcade games at some of those theaters, if not more. And they were all like classic, like Street Fighter 2 stuff and Mortal Kombat and all that. But I guess arcade games were still kind of popular. What do you think are going to do after Thanos? I think after Thanos, they'll probably focus more on the smaller aspects of the Marvel Universe and not try to do as much cosmic big stuff. I think they'll probably go back to what the first Iron Man was, or make more Ant-Mans. I think they'll have the characters be more standalone. I think Thanos will be kind of the end of, for a while. They'll bring something back around, but I think that they really, when they're done with that, they're going to take a break. Our theater actually has a burger place right next to it, and I'd love to have burgers with the movie, but they don't let you even bring it in. See, I used to sneak burgers in a theater all the time. I still, to this day, like, will go stop at a Burger King and get a Whopper, or even go... I remember I used to go to Taco Bell, and, yeah, if you go to a big theater, they will walk around with lights, and you can't really do that. Like, if you go to a big theater, they're looking to see if you're on your cell phone, but if you're, like, in a small town like me, yeah, I can just walk in with burgers in my pants and just eat them in the theater, and they don't even check. I can just walk in with a sandwich. That's pretty sweet. I believe you, dude. I 100% believe that Portland is that hipster that they think that's the only way to be real without movies reading. That's pure Portland. Yeah, AMC does own. Yeah, Carmike was really good. I liked all the ones I've been to that were terrific. There's a lot of good chains though. It's not really always a chain issue usually. It's an individual theater issue. Employees, how popular that theater is, you know, if they're understaffed, the location. There's a lot of factors that go into a theater being nice. I disagree. Okay. Oh, you think that there's going to be a new bad guy? I mean, I think there could be, but they said, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they'll do that or not. They probably will. On some level, but I don't think they'll jump into it. I don't think they'll go from one big baddie to another big baddie. Especially with how big the Infinity War storyline is. That's like a bending reality, where everyone dies and comes back to life story, and it's epic. And I mean, I don't know. I think they'll try to, because if they keep trying to go bigger, they might explode. Where they might go back to, because Marvel always does this. They go big and then they go small. They always go back and forth between big and small. And I think they'll go back to small for a while. Because I don't think they're going to have Chris Evans anymore as Captain America. I don't think they're going to have Robert Downey Jr. anymore as Iron Man. I think what they'll do is they'll have a new Cap, which will probably be the Falcon or Bucky. I don't know where they'll go with that. And yeah, Chris Hemsworth I think is going to stay on forever because I don't think his career is ever going to take off outside of this. And I think a lot of the other, yeah, they'll probably, yeah, keep the Guardians for a while. I don't know. It really could be a lot of people. It's kind of a roll of the dice when you're talking about Cosmic Marvel and their big villains. You could roll the dice and it really could be all sorts of people. We're going to have to wait to see what Kevin Feige says about it because I don't think he said anything about the plans after 2021. So I'm not really sure what their plan is entirely. And I hope they do something surprising. I sneak food in the theater, too. My theater doesn't even give a crap about bad behavior. Yeah, I know, I sneak in food. I use sneak in food all the time. You're hungry. You're hungry and you don't want to pay $10 for popcorn and some crappy nachos. You're like, I'm going to go grab a burger. What else could Chris Evans do? Well, it's not necessarily that Chris Evans needs a career. I just don't think he cares. Chris Evans is a lot like Ryan Gosling. He just wants to be an art guy. Like, he directed his own movie. He does stuff like Snowpiercer. He doesn't really seem to care about being a movie star, but Chris Hemsworth's entire career, I think, is being a movie star. I don't think Chris Hemsworth, I don't think he wants to be an art dramatic. I mean, he was in Rush, but all of his films kind of do really bad. And I think Chris Evans, I don't think he cares. And also, I think Chris Evans could have a career doing all sorts of things. Yeah, I think he wants to go do indie projects. That's what he talks about, too. He says he doesn't want to always be Captain America, and he wants to go work as a director and be in more independent films. And I think that's what Chris Evans could do. I'm not saying... That's the thing. Robert Downey Jr. doesn't need Marvel to be successful at this point. He has enough money. And Chris Evans, I think, will just want to go do what he wants to do. I don't know if I see Chris Hemsworth going off to star in, like, indie art films. I think he'll probably always play Thor for years. Especially now that the Thor franchise has got this new life and it's more popular now than ever. Hey Pat, are you planning to get drunk when you watch Justice League? Maybe. There's a bar in right beside the theater I go to, so I might get drunk before I go see Justice League. That's not a bad idea. Well, if Marvel ever gets rights back to Fantastic Four, the next baddie could be Galactus. Yeah, I would like to see Galactus actually done properly. But yeah, I think that rights thing will work out. I think we're going to see the Fantastic Four at Marvel. I really do. I think we're going to be seeing that pretty soon. I don't think that's done. I think it's coming. You know, some people say, "Oh, you're never going to see Spider-Man at Marvel." Well, it happened. I think Fantastic Four. I think the same thing. Because what is Fox going to get from that franchise at this point? There's no reason to continue with it. At least with the X-Men franchise and Deadpool and that, you know, there's still something there at the box office they can... You know, Logan made a lot of money. Deadpool made a lot of money. They still have... And they're kind of dominating the R-rated superhero market right now, Fox is. And Fantastic Four, you can't do that as an R-rated movie. Just, yeah, let Marvel do it. That's the time to do it. I actually really like Sucker Punch, probably because I think the girls were hot. Yeah. I mean, if that was your gauge of it being good or bad, was the chicks being hot, then yeah, it's a great movie. Let's see. Why isn't there a forest in the middle of Pittsburgh? Why isn't there like a forest in the middle of in Pittsburgh? It's old. It's an old place. It's not really the way it's set up isn't very good for that. It's a lot of old stuff. The weather's not very. It's very cold. It rains a lot. But yeah, Pittsburgh has some really cool theaters. They had one theater there called the Oaks Theater. I don't know if it's still there, but I saw Nightmare on Elm Street there, and that was pretty. You could drink there, and I was really fucked up when I saw that movie. I was like, I was out of my head. And then they have a lot of retro theaters, but unfortunately, you have to kind of live in the city to get that, and that's what sucks. Because small town people, I think, would go see more retro movies, but they don't really do that at the chain theaters as much. They will sometimes. There was one of them does like a series a few years ago. They showed like American Graffiti and Back to the Future and Ghostbusters. Winona Ryder is only 0.8 points less hot than she was in her late teens, early 20s, but my god, does she look cock-daft. Yeah, she's got that crazy hot look now. She used to just be hot. Now she looks like a hot, crazy chick. But in some way that makes her even hotter. I don't know why. I don't know what the appeal of guys is with the crazy chick. But, like, I just see those crazy eyes, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I get... Like, everyone's macking on Mike's mom, and I'm like, no, Will's mom. Sean Astin had it right. Blanchett is 48 and has looked good in Malik's recent films. I think her skin's just so nice. She's aged really well. She's aged really, really well. I really don't think she looks that different from when she was, like, 10 years ago. Remember when Captain America talked about how he murdered and ate babies in Snowpiercer? I love that moment. I love it, yeah. He's amazing. You could sneak a few cans of beer. That's true, you could sneak cans of beer into a theater. Oh, a flask would be a better idea, wouldn't it, though? I saw Kick-Ass with a friend, and he snuck a flask in, and we went to a midnight screening of that movie on a Thursday. Or it was 10 o'clock, actually. And he got drunk as hell and talked the whole movie with, like, 20 people in there. Oh, my God. He had whiskey, and we kept taking swigs of whiskey, and I only took like 3 or 4, and he just kept drinking that whiskey, and by the end of that movie, it was ridiculous. But yeah, I think taking a flask in anywhere is always a good idea if you're an alcoholic. It's kind of like getting doing the Miles Teller alcoholic thing from The Spectacular Now, and I knew a lot of alcoholics that do this. You go like get a big soda from a gas station or something, or from McDonald's or something, and then you put booze in it, and then you drink it all day. You're like, oh, I'm just drinking the drink from Sonic. Not half of this isn't vodka or anything like that. Don't worry about it. AMC still have arcades. Yeah, a lot of them still have arcades. I'm not saying they don't have arcades. It's just always that same cliche arcade that like a Walmart would have. It's not a lot of the games I would want to play. It's a lot of those like punching games, the hunting game, you know, maybe a pinball machine. But, you know, I want to play like a variety of fighting games and adventure games and you know, Tron. I would love if a place had Tron. I always look for an arcade cabinet of Tron. I found like 12 in my life. Tron is one of my favorite things in the world. I can just walk into the theater with the CVS bag full of candy and nothing will happen. That's what we do a lot of the time. There's a Kmart right down from the theater, and they sell all that candy. And we just walk down there, and my girlfriend puts the candy in her purse, and then we just walk back to the theater, and we eat our candy when we're in there. I barely buy... The only thing we ever buy occasionally is popcorn, because they have that deal if you buy popcorn, then it's cheaper every time, and you get to keep the bucket. But outside of that, no. I don't even get drinks at a theater. I just drink water before I go in, or we sneak a water in. One of the great things about having a girlfriend, I gotta say, they have purses and they carry that stuff in there so you can sneak it into places. It's amazing. Otherwise, you're always a guy wearing a jacket hiding your stuff and you look really suspicious. Because I know, I've been on both sides of it. Edgar Wright was before Guardians 1. Guardian 1 was the movie that showed Marvel a director with the voices okay. It was too late for Edgar, though. Already discussed it. It does feel that way. It feels like they didn't realize that they could have went with Edgar Wright and they really didn't need to back out of that. Really? What, do you want me to be Frank Booth? Mommy! Mommy! Pabst Blue Ribbon? Fuck that shit. Wait, no, it's at Heineken. Heineken, fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Mommy, baby wanna fuck. Baby wanna fuck. Yeah, I'll go in and do that, Blood Money. My purse is great for sneaking in stuff. No, I'm so jealous. I wish the man purse, the Merce, was a more popular thing except for that episode of Seinfeld. Because I want to walk around. And, hey, Pat, remember that one guy in the comments that said that Zack Snyder would be better for Berserk than Nicholas Winding Refn? I honestly think Zack would just turn Berserk into 300 clone. Well, of course he would. Of course he would. That's all it would be. He would do a terrible version of Berserk. It would be what you think that book is if you don't read it. It would be what I thought that book was going to be when I first started reading it. And I thought it was going to be some typical anime monster bull crap instead of this great piece of writing. So yeah, of course. Oh, I know. Female privilege. You and your female privilege have to rub it in my face, why don't you? Look, she even gets to be the moderator. There's no male moderator. Female privilege. See what it is? Even I'm showing a bias. It's terrible. It's really bad. Well, I actually don't hate PBR at all. Even though it does kind of taste like crap. But I'm a hipster redneck. I can do it. I can be both things at once. I could be a... I love the hipster redneck. I think it's the... Well, I guess that was just grunge in a sense, but yeah. Oh, okay, we're pretty much at the time I want to do these shows, about an hour 40-something, so I think I need to wrap this up. That's the thing, I don't want to do 3-hour shows anymore, but I also don't want to do 45-minute shows or shows that are just an hour. I like the hour and 45 to a little under 2-hour mark, and that's where I'm kind of sticking with it anymore. So, I'm gonna get out of this while I'm ahead, and I don't have anything to talk about really, except talking to you wonderful people, who are my favorite people in the world. I always picture you as a David Lynch character. Oh, Diane! What, Diane? Come on! Vagina envy, I know. But anyway, thank you for joining me on this episode of Box Office Addict. I am not here to help you with your addictions. I am here to help you embrace your addictions. If you listen to the show, you are probably a I cannot speak. You're probably a box office addict yourself. Let's get that out of the way. And is Bathory your token geek girl? I guess she is. And thank you to her, everyone. Let's give applause for her being my moderator. I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks. I've been trying to figure out a moderator, and through the process of elimination, it came to me that she was the right choice in particular for this because I don't know. She helps. She pays attention and she responds to things, questions I throw out there, and actually follows up on those things. How come you don't get ads? Because I don't kiss butt. And because it's YouTube. That's why I don't get ads. It's YouTube, and they don't like me. And I don't even swear that much or anything like that. But yeah, she's awesome, and she's a process of elimination. So she will be the moderator when she's here. I don't know if she'll be here every Sunday, but she'll be able to kick some of you guys out or block you guys if any of you get out of line. And I leave it to her will. So you are left at the will of her and not me. Sorry. Thank you for that, and thank you for everyone who watches. And God, this was a really fun episode, and I think we did a good job with the formatting and all that, and I hope everyone really likes it. If you have any suggestions for the show, put it in the comments. Leave your predictions for the second weekend of Thor in the comments section, and we'll see if you're right. I'll look at the comments and go, oh, look, right. Yeah, liberal finger snapping. Yeah, I am standing on my soapbox right now, proclaiming But yeah, thank you for everyone joining us. I'm so the basic way to summarize: Thor did really well, really well, and Marvel continues to dominate the box office, very consistently, be number one. And yeah, really fun show. I'll leave you guys with some outro music, and I'll see you guys next Sunday, when Thor will probably be repeating its number one, but I'm more pumped for Justice League coming out to see how that's going to do. And then we have Last Jedi in December. So some big movies coming out down the road. And this was a really fun time. And someone else might become a moderator down the point. Don't lose hope. I'm just being very picky with it. I have to get to know you after a little while before I just make you a moderator. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Let's get that music going. From Sharkfoot, which I would ask you to go subscribe to him, Sharkfoot_. This is his music.